Welcome back to another episode of It's All Been Trek Before. This time, the Klingons are back. It's the Day of the Dove. Speaking of Klingons, no, actually, she's not a Klingon. She could be. It's Nikki Tells You How to Live Your Life. Nikki's back for Season 2. Every Wednesday, Nikki presents a weekly advice series on our YouTube channel called Nikki Tells You How to Live Your Life. You never guess what she does on it. She tells you how to live your life. Some of the advice, actually decent. She may tell you how to dress up as a Klingon or act more like a Klingon in your daily life. Or maybe a Romulan. Who knows? I doubt Nikki knows those terms. She doesn't follow hockey. But you should follow her and learn about these things. While you're doing that, I know what Nikki's also going to tell you to do. One thing she's going to tell you to do with your life, I'm going to tell you too. Go support us at patreon.com/IABD. Patreon, Patreon. Support us there. Support all our programs as we keep bringing more and more new programs to you. Go to patreon.com. It's a great way to support us. Really easy to do. Give us a monthly gift, and it's the gift that literally keeps on giving to all of us. Also, you know, this is a Star Trek show. Literally a Star Trek show. And there's a show called Universe Journey, which might be related. Yeah. Maybe. Guess what? There's also a novel, Love's Lust Lost. And that's available. Check it out. IABDpresents.com. It's like having another Star Trek novel. It's a Universe Journey novel. So go check that out. So much more at IABDpresents.com. But right now we're giving you this.
Oh, and come see us live this weekend.
Oh, that's right. At the West Grandview Fringe Festival. For all the details, you can find it go to IABDpresents.com or check us out on Facebook and get all the details. There's going to be a Universe Journey, Space Dirt,
and
us. It's all been tracked before. Let that be your last battlefield, and we'll let you know where that last battlefield is. This time, though, the battlefield is Day of the Dove, and it's the Klingons on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. We have the same crew as last week.
What are the odds? This is Steven.
Oh, this is Colleen and I'm eating.
And Jimmy-Jerome. And we're all drinking. And we're here to talk about the seminal classic, Day of the Dove. Well, first impressions.
Yeah, it was about what I remembered. I mean, it was okay. Lots of Klingon stuff, which is as much as... And I know we've had a lot more Klingon stuff, and we will going forward, but in the original series, there wasn't a ton of Klingon interaction. Just enough that they were the guys. And so this, I think they're obviously the perfect vehicle for this episode and where it ends up going with the peace and love kind of thing eventually. But yeah, overall, I found it entertaining. Not a lot of huge concepts in it, but
maybe not huge concepts.
Yeah.
But there were certainly some things that I found small elements that the Klingon culture seemed to have embraced in future Star Treks.
Yeah.
For one thing, we saw our first female Klingon in the original series.
Yes.
Kang's wife, Mara, who not only was an officer and warrior herself, but she also had a very low-cut blouse where all of the female Klingon warriors we see from here on out have cleavage full on display. Yeah. She wasn't really showing cleavage, but it was the same kind of cut.
Yeah, it was
just without the shoulder
almost. Yeah.
And just her stance and her attitude to me echoed. I definitely saw parallels, having recently watched Discovery, of the female Klingons in Discovery kind of echoing her spirit and posture and stuff. So I feel like even though those things are kind of minor, they've certainly been something that have been emulated.
Well, and why are the Klingons and Romulans more progressive with their women than the Enterprise?
I mean, we've got Uhura.
We do, but she's not the science officer. She's not the captain.
That's true. And to be fair, if we're talking about sexism, there were several female Klingons that beamed on board, and then as soon as they were on board, the only one we saw was Mara.
This is true.
The others just disappeared.
The other one, she's gone.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And for a while, she doesn't talk, but eventually, at the end, she asserts herself and everything. But and we can get in more into that later, when Chekhov starts to sexually assault her, essentially, I wanted her to belt him. I wish they'd let her beat the crap out of him there instead of having Kirk come in and save the day.
Yeah.
Since she was a Klingon warrior and everything. And there's other parts where you're like, and I wrote down, I was like, doesn't she talk? And then eventually, she jumped in and does her
so
thing.
she's finally talking to Kang and stating the case for Kirk, and then Kirk just shoves her out of the way.
Right.
Which I feel like if they had fully understood the Klingons at this point, he shoves her out of the way. She turns and bars her teeth and kicks his butt.
Right, exactly.
Like she wouldn't be shoved.
That almost feels like Shatner pushing her aside. Like, this is where I take over the episode.
Yes.
Speaking of Shatner, he had some Shatnery moments in this episode. He had some good Shatnery moments, the good kind, and he had some of the bad kind. Mm-hmm. When Scotty's Spock are getting into their racial thing, and then Kirk interrupts it, and he's like pushing his hands, going like, "Oh, I can't believe I'm violent. Look at me. Look at me." Yeah, he got into that weird area, but
the racism in this episode was ridiculous. Now they did explain it by saying, "Yeah, this thing's causing it." At least for
once, they explained it with that rather than just
Spock's racial bigotry. I found it most distasteful.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, are they talking to the audience a bit?"
I hope so.
I do too.
I think a lot of times they were talking to the audience in this one.
Yeah, at first I was like, why? Okay, if they really did kill Chekhov's brother, which apparently he did have a brother, that was something they planned.
Yeah, and
I was like, okay, I get why he's angry, and I'm almost like, oh, I feel like he's kind of standing in for Kirk or somebody else. But, yeah. And then McCoy started getting speciest. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. And then, so I was writing notes down, like, this is over the top until they explained it. And I was like, oh, okay.
And I wrote down about Chekhov's brother first as well, because I thought, I don't remember this. And then I was like, oh, that's why I don't remember. He didn't have a brother. And I like that moment where Sulu and Chekhov buds forever, where he's like, yeah, I have a brother.
And he's the only one who knows, because Kirk's like, yeah, it does.
Yeah, no, it's like, come on, Kirk, get to know your crew. But at least Sulu and Chekhov buds forever. So I like that moment. And this was one of those episodes where, and Uhura didn't get a ton, but I liked how much Sulu and Chekhov got involved. They got to have their moments. Sulu's, he's one of the few that didn't really get affected by the spirit or whatever the hell, whatever you want to call it. So he got a lot of time. Chekhov obviously did. As we mentioned in the last episode, they wanted more Chekhov in these episodes.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, I liked it. I liked that we saw more Chekhov, more Sulu. I liked that we saw more of those guys.
Yeah, more of the supporting characters.
Oh, that's what I liked about this. Yeah, and I wish we'd seen a little more of her, but still, beggars can't be choosers.
Chekhov was so late to the game that if they hadn't pushed for him to be more developed in this season, I wonder if we would consider him as big a lead
as a fair point. Walter Koenig, he's great at being tortured, because it seems like Chekhov's always getting tortured. And he's great at...
I don't know if I'd say he was great at it.
I enjoy it. Well, let's just say I enjoy it.
For the record, Colleen was shaking her head at you too.
And he's always getting taken over by other forces. Yeah. All the way through Wrath of Khan.
Sure.
Which, I don't know if that's why he was selected as on Wrath of Khan to things put in his bodies. But, yeah, I always enjoy a good Chekhov.
That's about as realistic as they are.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Maybe I misspoke. Maybe I said that wrong. I enjoy it.
You can enjoy it all you want.
Oh, I do.
It's not good acting. Chekhov. I like Chekhov when he's being funny, not so much the torture.
That's fair.
Besides the rampant racism, this is the most sexism we've seen, obviously, in a while. The first sexual assault we've had in a while.
Yeah. And I need to couch my words very carefully. I was going to say, you know what I liked about that? Because there's not anything I liked about it. But I
Chekhov being rapey, huh? You like creepy, rapey
I did
Chekhov.
That I don't. The creature got more power from that. And I thought, I appreciate that they were equating that, like, that's a violent act. And they weren't like, this is a sexual act. It was a violent act. Because the creature, in my mind, fed off it.
Interesting point.
And it was super disturbed me because something goes on below the camera line, and she starts screaming out, and it's like, ugh.
Well, and Kang, when he sees her, is like, oh, I see why.
Exactly, yeah.
But I didn't see anything.
I thought her tunic got
slightly
stretched
torn.
a little, yeah.
Well, I don't know.
But
it did look like when they pulled Chekhov off of her, that there was a hand between their mouths. That one of the actors had a hand up.
Oh, is that
so they weren't mouth to mouth.
Yeah. It did look weird.
But... yeah, I thought that was interesting, but she, except for that moment, and then when Kirk shoves her out of the way, was a pretty strong character. So that's good.
Yeah, I liked her, and for a while, I was like, oh, like I said, she wasn't talking. I'm like, I know she gets more involved.
Now, Scotty's hair, you mentioned last episode, it seems to be back to more of a normal cut.
Yeah,
but it seems like Uhura took his haircut.
She poofed it up.
She's got the swept up poof.
Maybe that was a network edict that everyone must
Somebody had to have
a poofy pompadour kind of thing going on every episode.
Well, we might as well, since we're talking about hair, go into fashion.
Fashion. I liked Mara's outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked her little colorful things on the side.
Yeah.
That seemed to denote a higher rank than some of the other Klingons that just had the plain silver ones.
I thought
2 in different colors.
I thought it was fashionable yet functional.
The Klingon look themselves, we'd seen it before, but I thought it was nicely outfitted. Looked pretty good.
And we noted early on, a little smudgier than the other Klingons.
So, yeah, the blackface.
And Michael Ansar is a guy who he was born in Syria. He's got a darker complexion to begin with. I don't know if they need to go that overboard, but
probably for the black and white televisions.
Oh, that's right. We did talk about that the other time.
But it still felt very much like blackface.
Yeah, and especially when you start getting into the racial talk later, it's like, are we talking about? And I always say, we always talk about it's a Cold War thing. It's the U.S. and the Russians or whoever. It felt a little, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was more of a very racial. They wanted to get in the and I think there's definitely
some commentary.
Yeah, some commentary about the people above the fray want the people below to fight, and the people above want everyone to war because the people make money off wars. It's definitely there.
Did you, while we're talking about the smudged makeup and stuff, did you notice that after Kirk pulled Chekhov off of her, that he smudged makeup all over the corridor?
Yes, I did notice that. That's the first time I've ever noticed that. And
then later Kirk touched her face, and then he very carefully kept his hand closed and to the side, because that Klingon makeup was coming off on their hands.
I asked Colleen what she thought of the eye makeup. You didn't like it, did you?
I'm more familiar with the movies, and so the Klingons look so much cooler in the movies than they do in this. I just don't like anything about these Klingons.
I like the Next Gen DS9 Voyager era Klingons the best, and the original series movies as well. That kind of kept this distinct look. I like it less now that they're doing these totally bald.
Yeah.
I mean, they look more alien, but I don't like it as much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same
Especially when we go back to the original series, they have a ton of hair.
Yeah.
And then now they have no hair. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and I know like you said, you want it to be alien, but maybe that's the way they used to be. They were always humanoid, but...
I mean, I'll give them that Discovery has added that Klingons have 2 penises, and that's interesting.
That is interesting.
But, there was a shot in Discovery of a Klingon peeing against the wall, and there were 2 distinct streams coming out, and that is the topic of much discussion, even though it was like a background shot near the season finale.
Now you got me interested.
Yeah, now you have to watch the rest of Discovery.
Yeah, I do.
But that seems to be the one takeaway from the Star Trek Discovery Klingons is all this talk about how they have 2 penises, and do Klingon women have 2 vaginas, and how does that work? And we've seen, Klingon men hook up with human women or other species women, and, where's the other one go? I mean, the anatomy of it is boggling.
I mean, you have 10 fingers, and not all of them are always in things.
I know, but I mean, it could get in the way, is what I'm thinking. But I
maintain you have 10 fingers, and 9 of them don't get in the way, or 8 of them don't get in the way, or depending on...
Dakota Lane from...
Well, it depends how big they are.
Dakota Lane from Seinfeld.
Maybe they have 2 small penises.
I don't know how you guys walk around with those things. Let alone 2. But I guess if you always had 2, it would feel normal.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. We'll get to that in about 15 years when we get to Discovery. But yeah, in general, I liked Michael Ansara as Kang a lot.
Yeah, he's what my dad would always call a really good character actor. And everything he was in, even if it was crappy stuff, I felt he always kind of elevated.
I mean, he's got
a great voice.
He's got almost 200 credits. This is not one of the ones he's best known for.
I think he was. I think I read he was still the voice of Mr. Freeze until his 80s.
Yeah, he only died 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and he is distinctive of having played Kang in 3 different Star Trek shows.
Yes. Yeah.
So this character comes back in Deep Space Nine along with 2 other original series Klingons, and then this character also appears in the Star Trek Voyager episode Flashback, which is set during Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. So we get to see him as captain of his own ship, encountering Captain Sulu. I think that's interesting that they chose him to do all 3. But I think he's got a magnetic personality.
He does. He's got a great voice, and he's worthy of Kirk. And originally they were going to bring Kor back, and John Colicos was cool too. He seemed more of a devious.
I mean, I think that's what Deep Space Nine brought all 3 of them because they couldn't decide. Right. Kor, Kang, and what's the third one? Cole.
That sounds
Cole?
right. Yeah, the guy from
Trouble with Tribbles?
Yeah.
It's Deep Space Nine did bring all 3 of them back. Voyager chose only to use Kang. But I'm pretty sure Kang is only in 1 episode of Deep Space Nine, the other ones are in more, so I guess that balances that out. But I liked him as himself. I also liked his chemistry with Susan Howard, who played his wife.
Yeah.
Best known for Dallas. She did 200 episodes for Dallas.
Yep.
But they just had some depth to them. In the scenes that were just them, there was a lot going on between them that couldn't have just been on the page. And I think that just shows they got some really good guest stars this week.
I like both these guys. Susan Howard did it. They both have a lot of credits.
I mean, Michael Ansara is best known for The Message, The Manitou, Guns of the Magnificent. Those are all like late 60s into the 70s, so that's where his height was. But yeah, like you said, he was active up through 2001, or you say even later than that?
I think,
definitely a bunch of credits through the 90s playing Mr. Freeze. So
that's what I was saying,
Yeah, and he played another character in Star Trek Deep Space Nine as well. A different alien, different...
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So he was still active in the 90s when they were doing that. He was in Rambo, the TV series, like 63 episodes.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I just think they're the best guest stars we've had since the Romulan Commander, probably.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And then we also had David L. Ross playing Johnson, who he was in 9 episodes of Star Trek, but most of them he played a character named Galloway.
Yeah, and he died in one of them.
Including in City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah.
Did he die?
I think he died in Obsession.
It wasn't Obsession.
I thought it was Obsession.
The Omega Glory?
Omega Glory.
Was
he got
his last one?
Yes,
he's in
Omega
another
Glory.
one after this. He's in Turnabout Intruder.
Which...
Back to being Galloway in Turnabout Intruder.
Yes.
We've talked about him before.
We have,
Galloway.
yeah.
He was in A Taste of Armageddon, City on the Edge of Forever. He was just a guard in The Trouble with Tribbles, but he was in Miri. That was his first one.
Oh, well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, City on the Edge of Forever, Trouble with Tribbles, he was in some of the biggest episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah, and it's that thing we've talked about is like, would people at the time have noticed, oh, hey, was that guy killed
I think they
6
should
weeks
just
ago?
No, yeah, that would
Unlike
be
now,
crazy.
Yeah.
And why didn't they call him Galloway in this episode? Why was he Johnson?
Right.
He was in Galloway in like 5 other episodes.
Yeah.
What did you think about the swords?
They were so bad.
I mean, the construction of them was bad, for sure.
It was weird.
But did you like that they had swords instead of guns, or that?
It made for, the battles were kind of, as battles go, they were all right. I mean, I guess it was a way around having to use phasers. And
phasers aren't that interesting.
It's not really a fight. It's just, I just shot you, or I missed you.
Scotty really liked that one sword.
He did. I thought it was weird. They kept grabbing it, and I'm not a sword expert, obviously, because I've probably never held a real sword. Mm-hmm. They kept grabbing the actual sword part of it, not the hilt.
The blade?
Yeah. Which I feel like, I guess if you do it the right way, it wouldn't cut. And then I liked when Kirk's about to get on the transporter to be within the ship, intra-ship, and he goes back, even though he's only got 7.9 seconds, to dramatically lay the sword down.
Very slowly.
And then pirouettes back to the transporter. Colleen is judgingly shaking her head.
I'd like to time that, because I think he took more than 7.9 seconds.
He did. I think he did too. I was like, why are you wasting time?
Yeah, I just didn't like the swords at all, honestly. I thought they were kind of dumb. There wasn't really any purpose for them.
I think there is zero chance that any of those guys would actually know how to sword fight, having
that was the other thing I had. As much, other than Sulu, none of them have any training with that. And Sulu's sparring partner.
And that's an ethnic stereotype, right? You're not.
No.
You've never seen Sulu sword fight?
No, we have. Yeah.
We have.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Early on in season 1.
Oh, that's my bad. I haven't seen all these episodes.
He went, there was like a virus that made them all like deep tap into their inner whatever and the naked time, and he was sword fighting shirtless down the hall.
Yeah.
That one's actually a decent one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Funny enough, they put out a few years ago some Star Trek Mega Blocks, which are like Legos.
Yeah.
They put out a couple sets from the original series. There's like the ship, and there's the City on the Edge of Forever, the Guardian.
Oh, yeah,
a couple of things.
Yeah.
The other one they put out besides the Guardian from a specific episode was a little tiny piece of the engineering set. It's only like 40 pieces. With Chekhov, Scotty, and 2 Klingons with swords.
Oh, wow.
I have it down the basement. It's recently been pointed out to me that I say down the basement, which doesn't make sense. That's one of my weird country rural isms. Instead of down in the basement. But anyway, I've got the little action figure. And for some reason, it's Chekhov, Scotty, and 2 random Klingons.
That's hilarious.
With swords.
That's funny.
It's like a $10 set.
Where does that... Yeah, how does that decision get made?
Guardians of the Forever and Day of the Dove will be our second episode we highlight. I mean, no tribbles, no Romulan commanders.
Maybe this episode's better known than...
I don't think so. I feel like we need to do some Klingons.
Yeah,
what tribbles can we do with Klingons? there's not really anything in there. What about there's not really anything in there. We still don't have our Scotty action figure in the set yet. Let's do an engineering.
Well, when I was talking with Travis Horseman, writer of Amiculus,
yes.
Amiculus.com, about it yesterday, he was talking about Day of the Dove, and then he was like, what was that other episode of the Klingons in there? And he described Aaron and Mercy. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, that was really good. I was like, yeah, we talked about it on here, and how it's a great episode, and kind of gets lost in the shuffle just because I think it's got a name that sounds bland.
Well, it's also in the middle of some really great episodes.
That's true too. But he was like, oh, I really like that one, and so I guess people do gravitate to the Klingon episodes. It makes sense. Sure. There is that conflict.
They were the most seen villains. The Romulans were used far less.
Yeah.
I feel like in recent years they've tried to do more with the Romulans in film. Yeah. Which I think is a mistake. They should just double down on the Klingons. Yeah. I mean, the Romulans are not nearly as interesting.
I guess they just never, and maybe that just speaks to it, they were never developed. The Romulan episodes in the original series are some of my favorites. So.
Yeah, and they have developed the Romulans as a species. I think they're just so, everything's going on in their minds. Whereas Klingons are much more out there. Exterior, so they make a better visual story.
That makes sense.
In my opinion. Thankfully, Discovery has used the Klingons quite a bit, and they can't use the Romulans, so it won't make sense.
That's right.
So we talked about the transporter there, and then we moved away from it.
Yeah.
Transporter can disable the guns, right? Like, can't they just turn off, instead of, like, just holding them in the pattern, and then making the security come in? Haven't we seen that they can disable weapons in the transporter, or is that later?
I'm trying to think. That might be later.
Well, then the other thing is, why is beaming within the ship dangerous? You'd think it would be...
I don't know.
Easier?
It should be easier. You know where you're putting...
And then I start wondering, why don't they do it more often? Like, Kirk's down working out in the gym. Red alert! We got an emergency! Oh, beam Kirk to the bridge. Right. Instead of waiting 3 minutes for him to get there.
And maybe that was a way to try and heighten the tension to say it was difficult, but it doesn't make sense that it would be more...
It doesn't. Not to me. I mean, maybe there's some interference with electronics and stuff, but then... You got to think, well, when you're beaming to another ship or you're beaming wherever, you're going to have the same type of interference.
Well, they just make everyone turn off their electronic devices while they're transporting.
That way they don't beam into a bulkhead.
And they have to put their tray tables up. My thought was, if you were suspended in transit, would that be worse than death, or even no? Would it be?
I mean,
would it be like being knocked out.
So, spoiler alert: Scotty is suspended in a transport beam for 70 years.
That's right.
After the movies.
That's right.
Before he shows up in Next Generation.
Yeah.
So I have actually never seen that episode. I've only read the novelization.
I'm familiar with it, but I've never seen it either.
So I think we table that point until we get there. All right. See how Scotty fares after 70 years in the beam.
That sounds good. It sounds terrible, but
I think we'll be just happy to see Scotty back after all those years. Did you notice when Uhura got up just to be in the shot for the commercial?
I did, and it's a nice shot, and I like it and everything, but it was very obviously...
Well, and then I do give them credit that they tried to cover it. Then they come back from the break, she's still there, and then she takes something from Kirk and walks away. Oh. So it's like, oh, I have a purpose to be here, and yet at the same time, you're like, no, you don't. That was for the shot.
Yeah. But it was a good shot. It's a good going commercial shot.
And, she'd got less to do, so it's nice that they let her have the shot.
Yes. And I liked that when she got all worked up for at least 1 minute. She had her one scene where she got really angry about everything. It wasn't enough for her. At the very beginning, when the Klingons beam down, how does Kirk not see that punch coming from Kang? I mean, how is he not ready at all? Come on, you're Kirk. Yeah. Although I do like the moment again.
Where he pays it back.
Yeah, that's sort of one of those Kirk moments. That's why I love Kirk, is when he. By the way, I owe you something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was better than letting it go for sure.
It was, yeah. So I enjoyed that moment.
There's a great Klingon line in this episode. Old Klingon proverb: 4,000 throats may be cut in one night by a running man. I think that comes back up in Star Trek.
I used to say that line a lot back in my young days. I also liked. I don't know if I liked it, but I found it amusing when McCoy was talking, when he's in his crazy state, and he's like, I got men down there in sick bay. They've been hacked. They've had atrocities committed on their persons.
I did not bump on that.
What is that? Who even talks like that? I don't care what creature is controlling your mind. You should not say sentences like that. Although I feel like that does sound like legalese. Like if you commit a certain crime, part of the definition of it is atrocities committed on their persons, and that carries a heavier sentence or something. Yeah, so I'm gonna write my lawmaker. So instead of actually doing things they should do. Well, it's the Ohio State Legislature, so they'd have nothing. They're never doing anything anyway. Yeah.
political slam. We're not ending a political segment, except to say by now Trump has to be impeached, right?
I mean, it's what, late 2018? I mean, come on. What did we think of the actual creature itself? The visual?
I was disappointed it never spoke and we never got, like, any idea.
Right.
Like, I guess he feeds life force, so he lured them there. So
what is he?
Does he just lure others? Like, it was kind of an incomplete
And he was
story.
able to control the ship and send it on Warp 9 and certain things, but he...
And, like, block most of the crew off so their numbers are even, and heal the people that have been stabbed. And...
Yeah, but...
I don't know who Z is based on, but the character that you wrote for me, I thought was based on this for a long time.
Really?
Because it controlled everything.
Yeah.
Z was omnipotent and ever powerful, and he made references like, it's just toying with us, and we're just doing this for its amusement and entertainment. And I was like, oh, that's what I did. So I was waiting for them to start flirting, but then it didn't happen.
So Z's a conglomeration of some different characters, but the main character Z is based on doesn't show up till next gen.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we could absolutely be. And the flirting doesn't show up till Voyager, even though that character, the character of Q. Anyway.
I thought the creature looked like they held up a pinwheel and just spun it and put weird light on it.
It made me think of... This is another reference that probably hasn't been made on this podcast yet. The Mary Martin Peter Pan.
I love Mary Peter Pan.
The Tinkerbell that was just a light that was going to be like a mirror flashing on the set.
Only instead of clapping to bring it back to life, you laugh to run it off.
Yeah.
The anti-Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell's evil cousin.
What's up?
Snugs agrees. Yeah, let's be the laughing at the end. Do we agree that was terrible?
It was so cheesy.
It was such a cop-out.
Yeah, and it was just so easy. It was way too easy for me, but...
Oh, yeah. It was like, oh, we gotta end this episode.
Yes.
Well,
but
that ranks one of the top two cheesy moments in the episode. The other one was when Kirk goes, Stardate, Armageddon.
Oh, I missed that.
When he did his captain's log.
God.
Instead of giving a Stardate. I know. Like, okay, how is this Armageddon? This is 38 people fighting with 38 people.
So... 400 Klingons still died, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so, and we're chuckling at the end?
But apparently the Klingon battlecruiser holds the same amount as the Enterprise, which I believe they've established before that the Klingon ships have less people on them.
I read something about that, too.
Was a super big Klingon ship? It didn't look like it.
I didn't think so.
And why'd they blow it up? I missed that.
I thought they used a term like radioactive or something, that it was...
Okay, so...
It could infect the area or something. I didn't...
Infect the vacuum of space?
I didn't really understand either.
Okay. Kirk was very careful to say no tricks after we beam up, which I bumped on before he did something. I'm like, oh, of course. But then having the security guards waiting and everything, that was after they beamed up. So even his explanation of I'm not going to trick you after you've beamed up, he did trick them after they beamed up. After.
I think Kirk thinks as soon as he hit the communicator and did the code that was the trick.
His trick was done.
Yes.
His part of the trick.
Yes.
But the trick played out after.
It wasn't very concealed because he kind of turned it to the camera where Kang was, which is I think you guys could have found another way to shoot that, but again, they were limited time. It's another episode where they're about to go out of the galaxy.
I wrote that down.
They didn't, but...
Which, again, makes no sense.
Because Kirk's going to be like, that's going to take us out of the galaxy. It's like, okay, well, you've been there before. You should be a problem.
Makes no sense. But something sort of related to space geography or whatever that I forgot to write down, but now I'm thinking of it. They talk about how the Klingons said, we rule over some weak planets, so we have to expand on or die.
Yeah.
And that, again, gives us a real insight into what the Klingon race is, what their motivations are, the type of society they live in. And so those kind of things were in here. So much more than I thought they'd be.
It is interesting that those little things that were dropped in there.
But they pay off for decades after.
Yeah.
I'm sure they weren't just throwaway lines, but I don't think they had any inkling that these were all going to be important.
No, that they were going to be canon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No.
Not just canon, but
I don't even think they knew. I know they didn't think any of this was going to be canon.
Yeah.
I thought there were a couple weird English things or word things. Kirk says "go to the devil," which is that just because they couldn't say "go to hell"?
I would assume so.
Yeah,
you can't say hell in the 60s.
I actually kind of like it.
We're not going to tag this explicit, and I'm saying hell. If we talk about it as a place.
Yeah, and I actually kind of like Go to the Devil. It's kind of silly, but I kind of like it. I don't know if I liked it in the episode, but I like it in general.
I like how later in Voyager they wanted to come up with some bad afterlife, but they knew this line was canon, so they had to like dance around it and make this character that, or in their story, that wasn't quite the devil, but was devil-like, so they had a loophole, which I'm like, yeah, this is where you shoot yourself in the foot, where you're writing a story 25 years later.
That's
right. You gotta remember, the Klingons have no devil.
Oh, that's
It's like the guy that wrote the Klingon language, that mainly wrote the Klingon language when they were doing Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. They said, we're doing Shakespeare, you need to give us to be or not to be. And he's like, but there is no to be in the Klingon language. You're like, well, we need it anyway. And you gotta be careful what you establish as rules. The world doesn't usually have so many set rules. Like, they're loose vagaries.
Right.
But yeah, no devil.
The other thing is Chekhov calling them Cossacks.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if, and we should know with all the coverage we have of Russia these days, whether they still use that term. But I don't know that they'll be using it.
I don't think I've heard it recently.
Yeah, I feel like that's more of a 60s, not a 60s thing. But it's more, used a lot more then. I just wrote down advanced species suck. I mean, how come they never meet an advanced species that's awesome? It's like, we're not only
let me help you.
We're super cool, yeah. So apparently, evolution isn't necessarily, I guess it's devolution. I mean, so far, right?
That's a good point.
I mean, you evolved to a certain point, and then you're like so awesome, you start becoming a jerk.
That's an interesting point.
And maybe that's what they're trying to say.
I don't know.
We should just stay in our place and not evolve. I just got a couple more things. I like McCoy's rules of war. I would love to hear what all of his rules of war are. I'm trying to think the one he throws out there.
I don't remember.
And I like that he tells those guys they got to start acting like military men.
Because McCoy is the epitome of a military man.
Oh, yeah. And then he storms off with his short sleeves to go back down to, sachets back down to sickbay. Oh, I wish I could remember his rule of war, but I would like to write up his rules of war, which there's probably 10 of them, and they all each contradict the one that comes before it.
Sure.
Because even in this episode, he's like, we got to kill them all. So he literally says, I got all these dead people. They all cut up a sickbay. We need to cut up more than other people. It's like, what rule of war is that?
Yeah.
My other, I got a couple more. The one is, essentially, the creature needed it to be like a galactic nonstop Hunger Games.
Sure.
Where they're all killing each other.
Yes.
And no one's ever going to win. Mm-hmm. But what I wonder is how it survived before that, then.
I mean, to me, it was kind of like the Jack the Ripper entity, where it feeds on the hate and the violence. And that survived, going from
that's true. It is like wolf. So I guess did it kill all the people at the colony then?
Oh, good point. We forgot about the colony.
Yeah,
they dismissed with that early on, and we don't talk about it.
Why didn't he just have them keep killing each other?
Well, not quite killing. Just fighting.
Right,
and maybe he made a mistake. Maybe he went too far. I was like, oh crap, I thought these guys were more durable. I'll be more careful.
Or was that part of the
illusion?
The fake distress call?
I don't know. They don't resolve that. That's a good point. Forgot all about him. I honestly was really surprised when they beamed up early on. I assumed it was going to be a planet show.
Yeah,
and
I knew it was on the
for
ship.
Like a second.
In fact, when I was reading up on it, there are paragraphs and paragraphs. There's probably treatises about where things are located on the ship just based on this episode and all the things where they talk about engineering and where this is and where that is.
Yeah, well, the one schematic of the ship that showed where the bulkheads were blocked off, there was like a long skinny thing that was still open, so it was very systematic. It wasn't like, okay, top floor. Right. Because at first I wondered, and then I looked at the schematics and I Googled some stuff, and I'm like, okay, I get it. It was a little more whatever. We also get to see Scotty climbing up the ladder outside the engineering door? Which I don't remember seeing anybody climb up that ladder before. Yeah. I've seen pictures of that where there's a floor there instead of a tube coming up. So that was like, did they have that for season 3? I don't know. And then we get the shot of Sulu in the Jeffries too. Yes. Which I was glad to see him get to do. Yeah.
My alternate episode was, this is kind of related to what we were just talking about with advanced civilization or advanced races or whatever. A creature that feeds on love. Why can we
makes everybody have sex with one another?
And you knew exactly where I was going.
Kirk would love that creature.
Why
He'd never run him off.
Why couldn't you have that? Why couldn't there be a creature like that?
My alternate episode was while Mara was being sexually assaulted in the hall, Janice Rand runs out and goes, "That's my job!" Shoves her out of the way. Takes back her place, having been off the show this time. But my last note is Mara related as well. When Kirk figures out what's going on with the energy being and how it's baiting them, he calls Kang to talk to him, and Mara starts shouting, "It's a trick! Don't listen to him!" I'm like, really? Because you were standing there and you heard everything.
Yeah.
But then, when she's on the bridge, and Kirk's like, "We're gonna threaten to kill her, but we're not really gonna kill her, of course." Yeah. And then he calls Kang, and she doesn't scream, "That's enough."
Right.
What it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what's going on? What's going on with that?
Maybe the creature had more control over her before. I don't know.
I don't know. She didn't seem like she was under anybody's control.
No.
She seemed very independent and...
And again, this is an episode where Kirk is somehow, other than that one moment, he's able to fight off the being better than even Spock.
Of course he is.
I wasn't paying enough attention to the first one. I feel like she didn't yell when he threatened to kill her because she absolutely straight up knew that Kang didn't care if she died. She's a casualty of war, and she knew that. But I wasn't listening to the first part of your statement, and I don't know if he threatened to kill her the first time or why she yelled the first time.
He didn't. But I would argue with you that he does care. He's willing to sacrifice her.
Okay, that's fine. But she knew that either way, he was not going to save her for...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No,
so it wasn't worth wasting her breath on.
Sure. But
whereas if she thought Kirk was going to convince him to talk for some other reason, then that she would fight for, but not her own life. She knew that meant little to Kang.
Yeah, I don't think it means little. I think there was some real rawness when he was like, she understands the risk or whatever, she's a casualty of war. I think he was very disturbed by it. I don't think he was going to act, but I think he was affected by it. I could be reading too much into it, but I really like the chemistry.
That's where you saw all that emotion.
Oh, yeah. The blackface expresses the emotion so much better. I mean, that's why did we give it up? I'm just kidding. Please don't write in your letters. I think I was just digging the heck out of their chemistry, and maybe I added my own subtext to it. Any other notes before we get to the ranking?
That's all I got.
So, men, women of Star Trek. Does Mara knock off the Romulan commander for you?
No.
No?
No. I'm very sweet on the Romulan commander.
Mara knocks off Dr. Jones for me. I'm switching to Mara. I liked her. Colleen?
No, I'm staying.
Staying with Morgan Earp?
You.
And episode ranking. Let's start with the Enterprise incident. Above or below the Enterprise incident?
I would, as I just said, I'm sweet on the Romulan commander. I would put it below that.
I knew you were going to say that.
I think I would.
I don't know. I'd argue. I'd almost argue it. I feel like this was a good episode. For season 3 standards.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy. I mean, I would say I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm.
I think Enterprise Incident's a little more memorable, a little more iconic.
Yeah,
but there were a lot of things in here I was really digging. Yeah. And the next one below that's the Paradise Syndrome. This is about that.
Yeah, I think.
So we'll rank it at number 3. Colleen, do you agree this was better than Spectre of the Gun?
No.
No, you think this was worse?
You like Spectre of the Gun better? Really?
What about Spectre of the Gun did you like better?
I got really bored during this one, so that one was better.
Fair.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the things I liked about besides the 2 lead guest actors were just like all the canon stuff, the mythology building out.
There was
which you wouldn't care about if you don't watch as much.
Yeah, I guess I don't. Staying alone.
I also thought this story was more cohesive and made more sense than the last one, but I could see how the West was more fun.
Yeah, and I was probably more bored than the last episode.
I think the last few minutes of this kind of fell apart, but
it did.
Until that, I was into it.
It seemed like it was going somewhere, and then it's like, oh, there's the door out. We'll see you. We're
until
out.
That, I was pretty into it. Yeah. Did not stick the landing. Cool. Next time we'll be doing For the World is Hollow, and I Have Touched the Sky, in which the Enterprise discovers an apparent asteroid that's on a collision course with a planet that's actually an ancient, populated, generational ship.
Yeah. In my mind, I remember this being an episode I liked. Maybe not a great episode, but definitely an interesting watch.
I am pretty sure this was the first episode of the original series I've ever seen.
And it's a McCoy episode, for lack of a better term, I think.
It is. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this is the first one.
Yeah.
Got it at the Columbus Library on VHS.
Oh, is that? Yeah.
Took it home. But
I like the title, too.
They only had a handful of episodes of the original on VHS from the library. It also, doesn't surprise me totally that season 3 are the ones that weren't being checked out and were available
that
for
makes
me
sense.
to get a hold of.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I think this one, and I think it was on a VHS with the Empath, even though they're they're like 6 episodes, 5 episodes apart. I'm pretty sure those were the first 2 that they were packaged on the VHS. Now, I could be wrong. If I am, you can write in to It's All Been Tracked at IABDpresents.com and tell me that I'm wrong.
And I will say, as I was doing the research for today, or these last 2 episodes, as I kept seeing more episode titles, I was like, you know what? There are some decent things coming up in season 3, more than I remembered. But there's also some terrible things still coming.
Oh yeah,
but but there's still some more interesting things coming up. So
yeah, I was looking at VHS stuff, and I don't see them being on a VHS together. Maybe there were 2 separate VHSs, so I couldn't tell you for sure. Anyway, we'll be back. Have a good week and live longer, faster. Your laughter was fake. Mine wasn't.
Mine was very fake.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?